There's something most people get completely wrong about discipline. They think it's about force, about pushing harder, about becoming someone cold, rigid, almost mechanical, someone who wakes up every day with perfect motivation and zero resistance. But that's not how the mind works. In fact, the more you try to force yourself to do difficult things, the more your brain quietly resists you. It procrastinates. It distracts you. It makes even the smallest task feel overwhelming. And then you start to believe something is wrong with you. But what if that resistance isn't weakness? What if it's a signal? What if your brain isn't broken, but simply untrained? There's a concept rooted in Eastern philosophy, often symbolized by the lotus flower. The lotus doesn't grow in clear water. It grows in mud, slowly, steadily, without rushing. It doesn't fight its environment. It transforms through it. This is what we'll call the Lotus Method, a way of training your brain to do difficult things, not through force, but through alignment. Not by becoming someone else, but by working with the nature of your mind. And once you understand this, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like power. Part 1. The first insight is this: your brain avoids difficulty to protect you, not to sabotage you. Psychology shows that the brain is wired to conserve energy and avoid perceived threats. Anything unfamiliar, uncertain, or effortful can trigger a subtle stress response. That includes things like studying, working out, starting a new project, or even sending an important message. Your brain doesn't distinguish well between this is dangerous and this is just uncomfortable, so when you sit down to do something difficult and suddenly feel distracted, tired, or unmotivated, it's not laziness, it's protection. Research indicates that the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, can activate even during non-physical challenges, especially when there's fear of failure, judgment, or uncertainty. So instead of forcing yourself through that resistance, the Lotus Method suggests something different. You acknowledge it. You say, "This feels uncomfortable because it's new or uncertain. That's okay." This simple shift changes everything, because now you're not fighting your brain, you're calming it. Imagine someone trying to go to the gym for the first time. They feel anxious, self-conscious, maybe even embarrassed. If they interpret that feeling as "I'm not disciplined enough," they quit. But if they understand, "My brain is reacting to something unfamiliar," they continue. And over time, that discomfort fades. The lotus doesn't resist the mud, it grows through it. Part 2. The second insight: motivation follows action, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel ready before they start. They tell themselves, "I'll do it when I feel motivated." But research consistently shows the opposite. Action creates motivation. When you take even a small step, your brain releases dopamine, not just as a reward, but as a signal to continue. This is why starting is the hardest part, and why the Lotus Method focuses on shrinking the entry point. Instead of saying, "I need to study for 3 hours," you say, "I'll study for 5 minutes." Instead of saying, "I need to complete this entire project," you say, "I'll just open the file." It sounds almost too simple, but it works because it lowers resistance. Your brain no longer sees the task as a threat. It sees it as manageable, and once you begin, something interesting happens. Momentum builds. 5 minutes becomes 15. Opening the file leads to actual work. One small step leads to another. This is not about tricking yourself. It's about understanding how your brain initiates action. Think about a time you didn't feel like doing something, but once you started, it wasn't so bad. That's the pattern. The Lotus Method doesn't demand intensity. It demands consistency, and consistency starts small. Part 3. The third insight: repetition rewires your identity. Research indicates that the brain is highly adaptable. This is called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new neural pathways through repeated behavior. Every time you do something difficult, even in a small way, you strengthen a pathway. Not just for the action, but for the identity behind it. You begin to see yourself differently. Instead of "I'm someone who procrastinates," you become "I'm someone who starts." Instead of "I can't handle difficult things," you become "I show up, even when it's hard." But here's where most people go wrong. They expect instant transformation. They think one productive day should change everything, but the brain doesn't work like that. It changes through repetition, not intensity. The Lotus Method embraces this. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent enough for your brain to adapt. Imagine someone learning a new skill, like writing, coding, or even speaking confidently. At first, it feels unnatural, but with repetition it becomes automatic, not because they forced it, but because they practiced it. Each small effort is like planting a seed, and over time, those seeds become identity. Part 4. The fourth insight. Self-compassion increases discipline more than self-criticism. This might sound counterintuitive. Many people believe that being hard on themselves will push them to improve. They think criticism creates accountability. But research shows the opposite. Self-criticism activates stress and avoidance. It makes your brain associate effort with pain. And when something feels painful, your brain avoids it. On the other hand, self-compassion reduces that resistance. It creates a sense of safety. And when you feel safe, you're more willing to try again. The Lotus Method is built on this principle. When you fail to do something difficult, you don't punish yourself. You reflect. You say, that didn't go as planned. What can I learn from it? This doesn't make you weak. It makes you resilient, because now, failure is not the end. It's part of the process. Think about someone who is trying to build a habit, like waking up early or exercising regularly. If they miss one day and respond with, I'm so lazy, I'll never be consistent, they spiral. But if they respond with, that's okay, I'll try again tomorrow, they continue. And continuation is what creates change. The lotus doesn't judge its environment, it adapts to it. Part 5. The fifth insight. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your willpower. Research indicates that willpower is limited. It fluctuates based on energy, stress, and even time of day. So relying on willpower alone is unreliable. The Lotus Method focuses on something more stable. Your environment. Small changes in your surroundings can reduce friction and make difficult tasks easier. For example, if you want to read more, placing a book where you can see it increases the chances you'll pick it up. If you want to reduce distractions, removing apps or notifications helps your brain stay focused. This is not about controlling every aspect of your life. It's about creating conditions that support your behavior. Think of it like this. If you plant a seed in poor soil, it struggles. If you place it in the right environment, it grows naturally. You don't need to force it. The same applies to your habits. When your environment aligns with your goals, discipline becomes less about effort and more about flow. And this is where the Lotus Method becomes powerful. Because now, you're not just relying on internal strength, you're designing external support. Part 6. The final insight. Stillness strengthens your ability to face difficulty. Eastern philosophy often emphasizes stillness, not as inactivity, but as awareness. When you pause, observe, and become present, you gain control over your reactions. Research supports this through mindfulness practices. It shows that observing your thoughts without reacting to them reduces impulsivity and increases focus. In simple terms, when you can sit with discomfort, you can act despite it. Most people try to escape discomfort. They scroll, distract, avoid, but the Lotus Method teaches you to stay, to notice the urge to quit, without immediately acting on it. Imagine sitting down to do something difficult, and instead of reaching for your phone, you pause, you feel the resistance, you observe it, and then gently, you begin anyway. That moment is where discipline is built, not in intensity, but in awareness. Because now, you're not controlled by your impulses, you're choosing your actions, and that choice, repeated over time, becomes strength. So when you put all of this together, something shifts. Discipline is no longer about forcing yourself to become someone else. It's about understanding how your mind works and working with it. It's about starting small, repeating consistently, being kind to yourself, shaping your environment, and staying present through discomfort. The Lotus Method doesn't promise instant results. It offers something deeper, sustainable change. Because just like the lotus, Your growth is not meant to be rushed, it's meant to be cultivated. And if you've ever felt like you struggle with discipline, if you've ever started something and couldn't continue, if you've ever questioned your own ability to do hard things, there's nothing wrong with you. You were just never taught how your mind actually works, but now you are. And that changes everything. So the next time something feels difficult, don't force it, pause, understand it. Take one small step and trust that each step is shaping you into someone stronger, calmer, and more capable than you were yesterday. If this resonated with you, and you want to understand your mind on a deeper level, how your behavior works, how your habits form, and how you can quietly take control of your life, subscribe to the channel. Because the more you understand yourself, the more powerful you become.